If the Falcons can eliminate the turnovers, they have more than enough to take down the Tennessee Titans.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code in all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. So if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman. And of course, today we are joined by none other than our very illustrious guest, Jarvis Davis, who joins us every week as we wrap up the week to sort of give us one last preview of the upcoming matchup. And of course, that features the Falcons traveling to Nashville to face the Tennessee Titans this Sunday in week 8. And Jarvis, of course, if you don't know Jarvis, if this is your first time watching, Jarvis is a very reoccurring guest here on Locked On Falcons, but he's all across the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, right? You can catch him on Locked On Sports Atlanta. You can catch him on Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. And of course, you can catch him on the Locked On Falcons postcast with myself, himself, and Tanisha Batiste, as well as the Atlanta Falcons football party, the Atlanta football party for the Georgia Bulldogs, doing Hawk stuff, all that stuff on Locked On Sports Atlanta. So without further ado, right, let's get into the conversation, Jarvis, and let's talk about this week 8 matchup. And for you, sort of, what is the thing that you're focused on, or what is the thing that you feel like is the biggest key to victory for the Falcons this weekend?
I think the conversation that we've been having for these past couple of weeks, with talking about quarterback turn the ball over, having 6 turnovers, and whether it be interceptions or fumbles or however you want to look at it, it has to be turnovers. Are they going to turn the football over? There's been an emphasis this week up in Flowery Branch for as far as the quarterback goes, Desmond Ritter, that is, to hold on to the football, and they've been going through drills and everything like that. So I think that if we can combine solid play that we've seen, solid quarterback play with no turnovers, I think that the Falcons will be cooking on the road, and they probably be looking at getting another win on the road in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. Like you see, there's advanced stats out there that say, like, basically the Falcons have lost this many points based off of turnovers, right? And I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, so that's why I'm not quoting them or whatever. But basically, It's like it's been a couple of touchdowns, basically the last couple of weeks, that those numbers are indicating. And so that's, I think, what you're talking about, Jarvis, where we talked about this on the postcast, we talked about this on the football party this past week, which was, especially in that Bucs game, like, that felt like a game that if the Falcons hadn't turned the ball over, they should have potentially gotten their first 30 burger of the season. You can even argue the week before in their loss to Washington that had they not had 3 picks in that game, they could have scored 30 points against that Washington defense. And so those are kind of the indicators that, like, this offense is trending in the right direction, but they just can't do the things at the end of drives that they've been doing. And they need to start, turning these drives where they're moving the ball effectively into touchdowns and points, and that's been something that they've been struggling with the last couple of weeks due to those turnovers.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that that needs to be the focus, and kind of understand, like, that what gives you a little bit of glimmer of light, right? When you talk about there is something that's there, it's something there, and when you talk about something being there as far as the offense goes and how they're moving the football, and there's some positives. Like, those are some of the things I feel they need to focus on. And I think, like, the focus, I mean, I know a lot of people talking about Kevin Byard being traded away and everything like that, maybe be able to take advantage of them in the pass game. But I think that they need to continue this momentum and continue to try to, be who they are. And that's run the football continuously. And, of course, man, we got to get some of that blue magic back out there, man, because, it was a little weird last week, and investigations, and Arthur Smith all ornery about you guys don't know the process and all that stuff. Well, tell us the doggone process, Arthur Smith. Like, come on, man. Stop being so ornery sometimes. Like I like Arthur Smith, but it seems like certain things kind of get him, and it's just funny to me. It's just I was doing the same thing you're doing when I was watching their press conference or up there or looking at the press conference. You're just like, why? Like you're just giving people fuel for the fire, right? So yeah, I think that if they can kind of continue to roll with this run game and get this bad boy going, and then give us some of that blue magic, man, I think we'll be good to go.
Okay. I agree. So we'll get into more of this conversation about this upcoming Titans game, because my biggest concern is because given that the Titans are starting a rookie quarterback, the expectation is, we've beaten 2 rookies this year in CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. We'll just roll over Will Levis and Malik Willis or whoever else is playing in this game. But I think complacency could be a challenge for this team, because I think you go into this matchup feeling like the Falcons are the better team. But we've seen the last couple of weeks where after an impressive win, they come back down to earth a little bit. So I want to pick your brain on that, Jarvis, as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. So guys, snap back into the action for this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you look to this weekend's action in the NFL, half of this weekend's games have a road team favored over at FanDuel. And if you like a road favorite or you like a home underdog, there's no better time to get in on the action. You can use FanDuel. The app is safe. It's super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including taking the spreads. The Falcons are 2.5-point favorites against the Titans this weekend as one of those road favorites. You can take player props like, hey, Bijan's status has dipped a little bit. The odds for him to win offensive rookie of the year or lead the league in rushing are in your favor, right, at this point in time. Or you can bet over unders. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off this NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. So, Jarvis, continuing today's episode, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Jarvis is part of the trio that gives you NFL Kickoff Live across the Locked On Network every Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, getting you previews of the upcoming weekend's action, getting you fantasy tips, betting angles, and of course, the local coverage from the local experts like myself. Check out Locked On NFL Kickoff Live across the Locked On Network. If you're subscribed to Locked On Falcons, you can check it out at 2 p.m. Eastern Time Friday. If you're not subscribed to Locked On Falcons, please hit that subscribe button so you can check out Jarvis and Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. So, Jarvis, let's talk about complacency, because I think this is the biggest challenge for this Falcon team. We've talked about the things that they need to work on to improve every week. Arthur Smith, speaking of Arthur Smith's press conference, he talks about how every week, whether you win or lose, there's things that you can build on and improve upon week after week. That's one of the challenges of the NFL is, they will humble you quick if you're not ready to play each and every week, as they say, any given Sunday. But that has been kind of a challenge for the Falcons. We haven't seen this team win 2 games in a row since their opening 2 wins of the season. We saw that impressive win against Houston a couple of weeks ago, and then they fell back down to earth against Washington in a game that I think most people thought was potentially a more favorable opponent than Houston was, given how Houston had been playing up to that point, how Washington had played up to that point. And you have a similar situation where Tampa Bay, Tennessee's kind of down these last couple of weeks, got a rookie quarterback. How much of a concern for you is the Falcons being complacent this weekend against the Titans?
I don't think it's too concerned, given for the reasons that you just laid out, right? Because they have an example of, hey, may not taking, obviously we don't have like a hardcore source saying, hell yeah, these guys took these guys lightly, but that's how they played. For the most part, obviously the defense has been pretty consistent throughout the season. So I'm definitely not concerned about that side of the football. And I know we talked about the turnovers, but I think the defensive side of the football, they are finding ways to get better. And I think that, for them, the next level or next step for them is, continue to turn teams over. Like we seen Richard Grant come up huge. Like, yeah, I said Richard Grant. Yeah, I said Richard Grant came up huge with that pick last week on Baker Mayfield. So I think that if those guys can continue to get these sacks, man, they say sacks comes in bunches. I want to continue to see those, man. Let's keep those things going. I love the way David Onyemata played. I think he probably had his best game as a Falcon last week against the Tampa Bay. So yeah, you just saw like, okay, I understand why they brought this guy in. A lot of New Orleans Saints fans were trying to hate saying the guy was done and all this stuff. Nah, man, that man still got it, and it was prevalent last week. He was giving Cody Mock some good work. Welcome him to the NFL. Yeah, Mr. North Dakota State. So he was out there doing his doggone thing. So I think that I'm not concerned at all defensively, and I think the offense, they just don't have any room to be complacent. To be honest with you, like I said, like continue to run the football like you've been doing the past couple weeks, and then get rid of those turnovers. Get rid of the bonehead plays. Let me not even say get rid of turnovers. Get rid of the bonehead plays. And I think we'll be talking about a team that can really run away with this thing as far as the NFC South goes.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I think the biggest challenge for the defense is going to be stopping Derrick Henry. I know Derrick Henry is not the player that he once was, but he's still 260 pounds, and that is a load. So they're definitely going to need David Onyemata and the rest of that D-line to step up this week, as well as the linebackers. To quote Jerry Gray this week, that they're going to have to gang tackle. They're going to have to swarm Derrick Henry. No, and
avoid the stiff arm. You don't want to be on anybody's highlight film.
Richie Grant made some plays, but like he's the type of dude that will get.
He'll run up. So he's the type of dude like, I'm
gonna take this dude. Good luck, Richie. Good luck with that. But and then they also have Tajay Spears, who we both saw at the Senior Bowl, very explosive running back. So they have a nice 1-2 combination, where if they can get that ground game going, that's going to be a challenge for the Falcons. But obviously, we've seen this run defense play well, so I don't think that's going to get out of hand if they can play their fundamentals and tackle and all that stuff. But they do need some help from the offense, right? The way that you want to make this game. And I think I have an article coming out at the Falcoholic, either Friday, Saturday, whenever it comes out. But like the way you kind of want to play this game is the way that you saw the Falcons play the Panthers in week 1 against Bryce Young, which is, they didn't get off to the fastest start offensively in that game. And Carolina was able to run the football for 3 quarters and racked up over 150 yards against them because, the Falcons really only scored points in that game off of turnovers. Like the offense wasn't really having a lot of success. But then once they got that lead in the fourth quarter, then they could turn up the heat and force Carolina to abandon the run and have to throw the ball. And that's where you saw, Ryan Nielsen cooking up all those blitzes and that pressure and all that stuff. And so
Bates,
you want to see the Falcons do that, not wait till the fourth quarter to get to that point. You want to see them do that earlier in the game, get off to another fast start, score some points in the first quarter. They're challenged the last couple of weeks. They've been scoring points in the first quarter. They haven't been scoring really any points in the second quarter. And so get off to that fast start, sustain it. And then all of a sudden you're making Will Levis, you're making Malik Willis, you're making whoever at the quarterback position. They're not handing the ball off to Tajay Spears. They're not handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. They're trying to throw the ball to Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins, good players, but they ain't got nobody that can throw them football. So it's like,
no doubt.
And
unless they throw it to themselves, like
I'm not worried about those 2 guys because the Falcons secondary has shown that they can handle pretty much everybody that's not named Mike Evans up to this point in this season. So I feel like that's the game plan for the Falcons. The offense, do your part, get some points early, make Tennessee more one-dimensional. The defense, do the thing that you've been doing, just keep doing you defense. And I think that's kind of the formula for success. And as long as the Falcons don't go into this game thinking like, oh, we'll just be able to cakewalk to a victory. And as you say, Jarvis, I don't think that's how this team is built. And because of some of the ups and downs that they've already experienced through 7 games this year, my hope is that they're going to be locked in at this point in the season, and we can actually start talking about this Falcon team as like a legit playoff team and not a team that's just like, oh, well, we're just the best team in a bad division, right? You know, which is
man,
is kind
it's
of
a lot of that going around.
yeah. So
which
like,
is true at this point. It's true.
It is right.
Yeah.
But like, you know, good teams start beating the teams that they're supposed to beat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where it starts, and it starts this week because, like you said, you got a road game for the first time, and I got to win on the road for the first time in a long time, and like you mentioned, you know, as far as getting a back-to-back wins on the road, you know, that's like we talking about stacking good games, right? Stacking games, right? So that's the thing that they have to do right now. And another thing that just kind of stood out to me as far as how his offense goes is just like the connection between Kyle Pitts and Desmond Ritter. We talked about this on the Atlanta sports party today, and it was just like, all right, they've been Desmond Ritter and Kyle Pitts. It's something there. Like you see it now. Like they're able to connect now. And I think that Desmond Ritter kind of put it simply like, yeah, I'm just giving him a chance to throw the football, and that part right there just made me really realize that this cat starting to get a little bit more self-awareness, because I thought that was kind of lacking a little bit in the beginning, but you're starting to see it now where he understands, like, okay, here's where I am as a quarterback, and like I already know what the things that I have to do in order to be successful. I just have to make sure I'm building rapport with all my guys, because I have a relationship with Drake on and off the field, and I know what he likes and how he likes the football. I know I can throw a 33% ball.
I don't even know why you try to do math on the show.
Right.
You know, it is not your strong suit, but you got that one. You got that one.
I was there. I got it. Yeah, I get credit for that one, right? Yeah. So yeah, a 67-33 ball. You know, it's go to Drake London, but I think Kyle Pitts is now is the time where Kyle Pitts is okay. I know he's at least throwing it in my rim, so I have a chance to catch the ball. So, hey, maybe I'll run this route a little bit harder. Maybe I'll stick my foot in the ground and try to get upfield versus trying to come back to him, you know, because I'm making eye contact with him as he's kind of scrambling out of pocket. So all those things kind of go into place where you're talking about you building rapport, and you've seen that it's been very prevalent these past few weeks as far as Desmond Ritter and Kyle Pitts getting that connection. And I think that's going to help them a lot, especially when you're going out on the road and trying to get back-to-back wins.
Yeah, I think that's a peek at, you know, some of that intangible stuff that you're talking about that, you know, the Falcons have been talking up a lot over the last year with Desmond Ritter, but, you know, tangibles only take you so far. You got to get the job done on the field. So hopefully we'll continue to see that happen. And we'll continue today's Locked On Falcons talking about trade deadline stuff, because, you know, we're a couple of days away from the trade deadline. I know Jarvis has been, you know, clamoring for a trade like so many other Falcon fans. So Jarvis, we're going to give you the floor to make your pitch, because we know Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith make this illustrious podcast their first listen each and every day, because they are everydayers, right? They are like so many of you guys that subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, and get that episode as soon as it's available. And so Jarvis, you're going to make your pitch for whichever player that you want to make a trade for as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Now, I'm sure many of you guys have $10 in your pocket, and you'd love an easy way to turn that $10 into $250, and you can do so with PrizePicks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just pick two or more players, pick more or less than their projected stats, and the more entries you make, the more money you can make, up to 25 times the money on your entry. I love PrizePicks. It's just you versus the projections, not you versus other players, so you can go more or less on Bijan's production, Desmond Ritter's production, Kyle Pitts' production, Drake London's, whatever you want. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use that promo code LockedOnNFL, all in lowercase. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Now, good, bad, or in between, it's tough to root for your favorite team on an empty stomach. So order your faves with DoorDash. If you're in the mood for oxtail or some Caribbean food, try Negril. If you are looking to satisfy that sweet tooth, you can try Five Daughters Bakery. And by the way, Five Daughters Bakery is not only in Atlanta, but it's also, I believe it started in Nashville. So if you're going to the game this weekend, right, you can satisfy that sweet tooth on the DoorDash app. Home or away, find your faves by getting 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. That's 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. Don't forget to use that code LOCKED23, LOCKED 23 for 50% off up to a $10 value. That buys you a couple of donuts right there on your first order when you download DoorDash app and spend $15 or more, subject to change, terms apply. So let's wrap up today's episode, Jarvis, talking trade deadline, right? And this has been a topic of conversation here on this illustrious podcast as well as elsewhere for several weeks now. The expectation is that the Falcons, given where they are at in the season, top the NFC South, that if they're going to do anything at the trade deadline, which is, as we're recording this on Thursday evening, it's about a little less than 5 days away. If they're going to do anything, they're going to be buyers rather than sellers at the trade deadline, right? Now, I've gone on the record several times on this podcast over the last couple of days and weeks that I don't expect the Falcons to make a big trade at this point in time. I just don't think the Falcons, or feel that sort of pressure to have to go out there and get that big piece. But a lot of players that are being shopped and being discussed as potential trade options or pass rushers, edge rushers. I've seen Carl Lawson and Danico Autry, who the Falcons going to face this weekend, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Daniil Hunter's name get tossed around there. So Jarvis, I'm going to give you the floor, right? In a second. A second. I got to get through my spiel. So just prepare yourself.
Do you think?
All right. I'm going to give you the floor to make your pitch for whoever you want. Now, for me, if the Falcons are going to make a trade, I think it's going to be like a low-key D-tackle type of player, someone like a Kentavious Street with the Eagles that can come in and give them some valuable snaps where they've had kind of a revolving door at that D-tackle position behind Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata. And if they want to keep those guys fresh, hopefully for the stretch run against the playoffs, getting another quality D-tackle in there makes sense to me, but I don't think that's going to be a big splash type of move. But that all being said, now that I've gone through my spiel, Jarvis, the floor is yours to make your pitch for whoever you want the Falcons to make that trade for.
Well, so if we can go back to the Jake Matthews piece, right? When they restructured his contract and everything, they freed up some bread, and I was just like, oh man, I would love for the Falcons to go after Daniil Hunter. And I'm just like, man, that would be so amazing. But I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. And I think that Minnesota may hold off on trading him as well because, they had a couple wins. They won 2 out of 3 last 3 games. So they're kind of in a space where, hey, we still feel like we can compete, in this division, with the Lions getting smacked up all up and down the place by the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that's dead there. But I'm with you as far as not a big splash type deal. That's why I feel like Carl Lawson would be a guy that I feel that would make some sense, right? Because he's another guy that you can bring off the edge. You've been going with Lorenzo Carter and obviously Bud Dupree. We saw Calais Campbell, bump down inside some too and rush. And of course, he's still doing his thing on the edge as well. So I think like the more guys that you can get that can come off that edge when it's time to rush the passer, I think that's the better. Like, and I'm sure Carl Lawson will come pretty cheap, maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick, as far as from a trade standpoint. So and then the Jets, like he's basically sitting around there just chilling because you know how loaded the Jets are up front. So so you might as well go ahead and make that phone call and see what you can do because like I don't think that the Falcons are in a place where they need to go out and trade for a guy like Daniil Hunter. Like, oh yeah, we're Super Bowl contenders and we need to just load up like the Philadelphia Eagles have been doing seemingly for the last couple of years. But I do think that hey, we can get some more depth, to potentially go on a run. Once they start to obviously I know the goal is to take control of this division. And you do that by having guys that can put the quarterback on the ground because you have enough weapons, I feel, on the offensive side of the football. I think you're good there. But if you can get one more guy that can put his hand in the dirt and rush the pass on 3rd and long, I think Carl Lawson would be your best bet.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I mentioned Kentavious Street, who's with the Eagles. If the Eagles somehow
he ain't playing no time soon.
Yeah, what's funny is Terry Fontenot will pick up the phone and like, I'm going to call the Eagles and we're going to get this Kentavious Street deal. And next thing you know, he's traded Kyle Pitts and Grady Jarrett to the Eagles.
Right.
Somehow Howie Roseman has just fleeced him out of it. And it's like, how did that happen? How did I just got a role player and somehow Howie Roseman got like my 2 best players on the team?
Right, exactly. Like I didn't say that. I didn't agree to that. How y'all got Grady Jarrett off of my roster? Like, what is going on?
So that would be a challenge for making that trade happen. You just somehow they'll figure out
how Roseman gonna get you.
Yeah, he's gonna get you somehow. But I do love the Carl Lawson pick. Like, even though I don't think a trade like that is likely to happen, I would love to see it. Anybody who's been an everydayer of this podcast for the last couple of years knows that I was pushing hard for the Falcons to go after Carl Lawson a couple of off seasons ago to get.
Man, he's from Georgia too, man. Went to Milton High School. Come on, man. Like,
yeah, he's a really good football player. That's injuries and basically because the Jets is basically like, hey, there's a 1st round edge rusher available. We're just gonna draft them, which I know is a philosophy that you wholeheartedly agree with, Jarvis.
I love that philosophy. Like. But the Jets are kind of in their space right now, But yeah, they're loaded up front, man. Yes. They have a very good defense.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe a quarterback would have helped in the last maybe. But
they maybe need to trade for one, potentially. Zach Wilson ain't it. I'm sorry.
I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but
he's down.
Hey, but
yeah, Achilles stuff.
They can get after the quarterback. They can definitely get after the quarterback.
They can rush the quarterback, Jermaine Johnson. You know how I feel about him.
So
ball player.
Carl Lawson's still a good player, just has got lost in the shuffle.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I think that I would absolutely love that trade. I can go. Well, can't dust off those tweets, but I can go back and dust off some old episodes of this podcast. Where we're gassing up the Carl Lawson stuff here as a future Falcon, but
let's do it, man. Let's get him here. Come on, just say it. Just say it, man. Just say it before we go. Just go ahead and say it. I mean, you're the Falcons prophet. Let's go. Come on, man. Just say it. Aaron,
Terry,
go ahead.
Bring him home. Okay.
All right. It is well. It is done. There we go.
Jarvis, I appreciate you for joining me on today's illustrious episode. We will be back with more immediately after the game on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube, and of course Locked On Falcons for the audio feed for that postcast, as well as of course my rapid reaction to whatever happens on Sunday between the Falcons and Titans. You expecting a lopsided win, Jarvis, or you think this is going to be kind of a low scoring, close kind of back and forth type of game that pretty much every Falcon game that comes out to the final 5 minutes?
Yeah, man, that's where I'm at with it. Yeah, it's gonna be a fight. It's gonna be a fight, man. Like, there's nothing comes easy with this team. Like, until they prove me otherwise. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm going with, man. Yeah. It's gonna be a tight game. Yeah, and they get the dub. It's probably be between a touchdown, maybe 3 points. Like, towards the end of the game, and Bijan Robinson goes in for the game, win the score, and all that good stuff. And everybody's all happy now, and they're not concerned about him getting headaches going forward and all that stuff. So yeah, that's how it's gonna go. Yep.
You sound like someone disgruntled fantasy owner of Bijan. With that
No, I didn't go that far. Like, I wasn't gonna jump out the car like that. I was just like, man, y'all drafting this man with the first pick. Like, all right, okay. He still got a couple guys around him. They're gonna get the rock. But anyway, but no, I didn't jump on that train that hard. Like, okay. I did try to trade for him though.
So. Okay.
Yeah.
You saw that behind the back catch, and you were like,
yeah.
I want that. I want that.
Cal did that too.
Cal,
Yeah,
I got Cal on one of my fantasy teams. I'm like, hey,
he
doing some stuff.
Something.
He doing a little something.
Yeah, give me something.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, that's gonna do it for us.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time to duck out when we start talking about our fantasy teams. So that's gonna do it for us here, guys. Continue to make Locked On Falcons your first listen. Check out Locked On NFL Kickoff Live Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern to get more insight into all these upcoming matchups with Jarvis, Tanitra, and Kyle Krabs. Of course, all across the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.